The history of Ultimate Team is speckled with moments of greatness, but clouded with controversy, greed, and a severe lack of consideration for the well-being of its players. And so I present an overview of it all. This is the entire history of Ultimate Team, all of the ups and downs. Thank you for watching. Many of you might jump to FIFA 09 for the start of Ultimate Team as a game mode in FIFA, but you'd be wrong, because Ultimate Team existed before this. As a matter of fact, 2.5 years before this, with the release of UEFA Champions League 2006-2007, the game. Yes, what is now just a part of FIFA used to qualify as its own game, and to be honest, it was kind of a cash grab. The game featured modes like the treble, which was just manager career, but did include a really early version of Ultimate Team, which is extremely janky, and I have no clue how anyone could understand what was going on. Despite this, it wasn't loved nor hated by the FIFA community at the time, and so was shelved by EA for the foreseeable future. Oh, how different the world would have been if they just left it on the shelf. There's not a lot of information about this game, and that speaks to its nature. EA would want to keep this game quiet after regaining the license for the Champions League in FIFA 19, when Ultimate Team was the biggest and most successful FIFA game mode, making EA literally millions of dollars and turning the sports gambling industry into their personal punching bag. But for now, we're coming out of 2007, and we're heading 2.5 years down the line to the introduction of Ultimate Team in a mainline FIFA title for the very first time. Welcome to the late noughties. The global financial crisis has just begun, China has built a massive statue, and FIFA 09 has just released to the public. It got good ratings and solidified EA's FIFA audience further, but Ultimate Team wasn't added until a couple of months later. This was for many reasons, mainly due to varying success it had within the Champions League game, but EA thought the idea was good enough to try again. And so, on the 19th of March 2009, Ultimate Team was added to a FIFA game for the very first time. Footage of this game shows how primitive it is, and you could basically do nothing. Some promos that are in FIFA now have literally been in FIFA since this iteration of the game, such as the Team of the Year. EA really never changed. There was an early version of the market. Packs were there with Microsoft points so EA could make loads of money, but the gameplay options were extremely limited. There was divisions and tournaments, and that's it. We're a long way from FUT champs, folks, so strap in. The divisions game mode was just 10 divisions and 10 games in each division. If you won a game, you get closer to moving up a division, with points thresholds increasing for each division you go up. Div 10 may require 10 points to get promoted, Div 5 may require 18 points, and Div 1 may require 27 points to win the championship. I hope that makes sense for newer FIFA players. This game mode was a technical challenge to add to FIFA, and EA really had to push themselves to include online play, card designs and stats, and divisions while making sure the game was stable enough to not crash every 2 seconds. Still don't think they've got to the bottom of it though. This was the foundations of Ultimate Team, but you might be thinking, was it a success? Did people actually enjoy the game mode? And the answer was of course, yes. EA had stumbled upon a cash cow inside of a cash cow, and when EA find a way to make money, even if the way to make money is borderline illegal at best and literal underage gambling at worst, they're going to make their sweet nectar. However, there's a problem. Since Ultimate Team is so hard to actually code in the late noughties, it would take a couple of months to get it off the ground in the new release, FIFA 10. However, EA were prepared to wait, as they knew the power of the game mode they had in the palm of their hands. FIFA 10 was released to critical acclaim once again in 2009 with a refurbishment to career mode, but that's not why we're here, and nowadays that's not why EA are here either. It's commonly accepted among the FIFA community that Ultimate Team is and always will be the sole focus of EA's efforts on FIFA, as EA have chosen to neglect other game modes like the manager mode in favor of Ultimate Team. Why? Well, in short, money. Ultimate Team makes more money than career mode. Ultimate Team makes more money than pro clubs, so Ultimate Team is the main focus of EA. It's sad because this is almost unanimous among the FIFA community that pro clubs is the most fun game mode to play, but because it hasn't changed in more or less a decade, nobody really cares to play it anymore, because it's what is effectively a 10-year-old game. It's been played already, and since EA hasn't changed it in years, there's no new content to re-engage the audience, so they all move away and return every once in a while to reminisce on what could have been and why it's not. However, like EA, we don't care about pro clubs because it's February 2010 and Ultimate Team just dropped behind a paywall. That's right, pay us $5 extra and we, out of the kindness of our hearts, will let you play our game mode. Bonuses are added to the game for winning, keeping good possession and scoring. Team of the Season is added and maintained until and throughout today's release of the game. Contracts were in the game to prevent you from having fun all of the time, because that would stop people from buying packs, and trading was in the game for cutting deals with other players. One of the key takeaways I want you to understand about EA and FIFA is the forgotten. Many of FIFA's most beloved features have been removed, phased out, or simply denied just because of how they affect EA's bottom line. We'll be circling back to this a lot, but trading is one of these features. At its peak, trading was another dimension to the market and was used by traders to add more value to their deals, but it was removed, and we'll get to why very soon. Here's a question: what number comes after 10? That's right, if you could believe it, FIFA 11 is here, and upon launch it didn't have Ultimate Team, but this time around it didn't take EA long to implement their big earner, coming a month after the game's release. This time, however, it was free. Amazing, thank you EA. New to the game mode was the ability to play against a friend, and that's kind of it. Simply phenomenal. phenomenal. This is when the FIFA economy really came into its stride, with the market becoming a game mode in itself and players scrambling to buy low and sell high. Despite this being discouraged by EA with the addition of more gameplay-based reward systems, it was basically the only way to get the best team possible in early FIFA without spending the equivalent of the GDP of an entire nation on the game. Of course, gameplay rewards existed, but they were absolutely horrific. You got like a handshake and a $5 for winning Division 1, so congratulations, you can now afford Gervinho, maybe. To be fair, we haven't quite hit the golden age of OP players yet, but we are almost there. FIFA 11, for me, marks the point of no return between old FIFA and new FIFA. Gone were the days of kickoff and career mode, and in their place we have microtransactions, gambling, and an overwhelming sense of nostalgia for old times. I want to illuminate this now because it's an important part in understanding the true lineage of EA's development as a company. As a new age rises, EA become more money hungry than ever, and everything that brought FIFA into prominence in the first place is forgotten. Career mode ignored. Pro clubs, what's that? Gameplay, who? It's like two discrete game franchises completely, and this now is the point where we change between them. Right here, we're leaving the past behind and entering the modern era of FIFA, through which most of you watching now have lived through. So be ready, because we're never moving backwards. We're heading to the future, and it all starts with the newest FIFA game. FIFA 12 is the beginning of modern FIFA, which splits itself into two parts, the first of which being the nostalgic era of FIFA Ultimate Team. I'm about to take you on a trip down memory lane, and for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, take out your notebooks and start writing. Seydou Doumbia, Lucas Moura, the old Ultimate Team interface, formation cards, the old background of the Sunday League Stadium, the KSI video of Akinfenwa, which still holds up today by the way, race to Division 1, and that's just a really short list. However, while many people look back on this era of FIFA extremely fondly, it should be noted that Ultimate Team added more or less nothing again on top of what was in the previous iterations of the game. Rose-tinted spectacles can be deceptive, and the more arcade-like gameplay was basically the only difference here. Often it's agreed that older versions of FIFA are better than newer versions, and I find that hard to believe from a content standpoint, but with regards to gameplay, I would agree with the community in not saying that it's not better today, but different. Whether you prefer running the pitch with S-Vine or playing a through ball to Mbappe is irrelevant when discussing Ultimate Team, as while gameplay has changed, its perception in the eyes of the audience has remained relatively similar across the lifespan of Ultimate Team. I say this to make the point that looking back on the past is easy because you remember the good times, but the sweaty goals, the crossing, the absolute state of some of the goals I've conceded on these old FIFA games is a sight to behold. So we have dodgy gameplay, and by today's standards, a bare bones Ultimate Team game mode, and a nevertheless dedicated audience. So as you can imagine, as the nostalgic era of FIFA begins to move, so does EA, and they come up big. The next FIFA game to come out also added like nothing to Ultimate Team. When are they going to add something? But really, the web app was introduced for the first time, and that's basically it. However, FIFA players that have been around for a long time look back on this game fondly, and for good reason. The FIFA online community was thriving, with some of the biggest creators pulling millions of views per video like it was nothing, and coin sponsors bagging these creators copious quantities of wealth every year, further growing the creator economy. And by the release of FIFA 13, creators like KSI and later on Rotashaw were growing FIFA to a greater audience than ever before. I think it's important for me to clarify why coin sponsors were so effective. In a modern landscape, coins are kind of expensive, and it's almost worth just buying packs. But back in the day, it was hilarious. I could pick up 1 million coins for like $80 and just buy the best team ever. This wasn't gambling like FIFA points. This was a surefire way of getting exactly what you wanted. In other words, it was paying for the players you want, not paying for a chance to get the players you want. As a result of the online success of their IP, EA did basically nothing. As a matter of fact, EA made their creators extremely unhappy. Due to the financial success of coin sponsors, and thus the financial success of creators, EA realized they were missing out on a huge proportion of their income. This is the beginning of coin sponsors versus EA, a battle that begins and ends with the middlemen, the creators. EA made the first move, clearly stating in their terms and conditions that the illicit purchase of in-game currency was against their terms of service. But how would the coin sponsors, the biggest threat to EA's income since PES, respond? FIFA 13 had some legendary players: Wellington, Robinho, David Luiz, Felipe Santana. It was basically all Brazilians, I don't know what to tell you. The power of FIFA from a cultural standpoint was evident. People loved the game, and people loved its best players. But EA knew this wouldn't last forever. Eventually, players would move on to the next shiny AAA title. So EA needed to hit strong on their next release, and they did not disappoint. I bet you a handsome sum of money that if you approach any OG FIFA player and ask them what their favorite FIFA game was, they would almost all come back to the same game. Welcome to the peak of the nostalgic era era of FIFA games. Welcome to FIFA 14. Icons, or legends as they were known at the time, were added to the game for the very first time, allowing you to play with past and present players at once. Messi could now cross in a ball for Pele. Sounds silly and trivial, but at the time it was a brilliant addition. This was the main focus of marketing for this iteration of the game. Gameplay was again improved, this time on the Ignite engine. But remember when I asked how coin sponsors would reply to EA? Well, they just did. Coin sponsors, and I don't put this lightly, began to pay out a lot of money to creators. Now, I'm not aware of the exact figures with regards to coin sponsors, but I can comfortably assume that the top creators were making millions a year from them at their peak, and EA felt like that was their money. I'll come out and say it. I've bought coins back in the day on old accounts that I don't use anymore. EA, please don't ban me. But I think everyone around then did, and it was normalized by the sponsorship of major creators. The coin sites were thriving, and everyone was better for it. Even people who didn't buy coins, because OP players on old FIFAs meant they didn't need Pele, because they had a Barbo who was like 95% of Pele at a minimum. No, the only party, and I mean the only party, who really suffered from coin sponsors was EA. To be very clear, I'm not advocating for a return to form for coin sponsors, but I am making it clear that EA did not want this. But everyone else was either completely neutral or completely for it, as far as my research informs me. Also, I want to remind you that divisions and tournaments are still the only game modes in the entire game. Nevertheless, this game is iconic, but we're now officially over the hump with the nostalgic era. We're officially on the decline, and what better way to signify the beginning of the end than with FIFA 15. FIFA 15, now hold on to your hats, actually added stuff to the game mode, seeing concept squads and lone players be introduced to the game for the very first time. But EA lashed back. That's right, they made a change, and I believe this change was the beginning of the end for FIFA. Gone are the days of playing for fun, cheap teams, Brasilver, crossing, even trade offers. It's all dead. FIFA 15 brought about Armageddon with the introduction of one feature, one tiny little bump in the road, which may be the single most negatively reviewed thing EA has ever done. EA added price ranges. This meant you couldn't list any player for any price. You had to list them between a predetermined set range, effectively putting the entire trading community at the mercy of EA's power. By now, players have come to accept price ranges, and I don't believe they affect the market majorly today, as if any player approaches a threshold in value, EA just tend to move the range. But back in FIFA 15, these price ranges were really tight, meaning EA had extreme control on the market, making trading your way up to millions effectively impossible. But they didn't suffer the most from this change. Oh no, it was the old enemy from years past, the coin sponsors. Gone were the days of listing a bronze and buying him for 5 million coins, and in their place, we have comfort trading. I don't know what it is, but it took forever and required you to hand over your account details, leading to many people actually getting hacked. Despite being disfavored by the majority of the FIFA community, EA's ultimate aim, ruining coin sponsors, worked. This impacted everyone negatively. Players now had to pay loads for their coins. Coin sponsors lost out on literal millions of dollars, and creators lost loads of money in sponsorships, and as a result struck out quite violently at coin sponsors, with the main one being this KSI video, which is hilarious in its criticism in a way only JJ can manufacture. EA tried to justify it to the player base, stating that price ranges will help FUT players understand the value of their players and make high-rated players more attainable, but everyone knew the truth, and the end of the fun began, instead bringing buckets, nay, swimming pools of sweat. But right now, we're still just warming up. FIFA 16, the beginning of the second era of FIFA, modern FIFA. Again, we're out of the nostalgia age and into the future, and EA wanted to remind us of this with a plethora of new additions. FUT Draft was added, a game mode which everyone played for about 2 minutes, then became completely redundant outside of the creator sphere, where the quest for a 194 draft raged all year. I love that trend. Female players were added for the very first time, but only their national teams, and they wouldn't be available in Ultimate Team for several more years, being added with the release of FC 24, 8 years down the road, which is both a completely different game and the exact same as it was. Let me explain the development of FIFA over the last 8 years in a way that doesn't give everything away. As I mentioned in this video, EA often add 1 or 2 features that sound great, but ultimately become gimmicks and secretly remove features. Then, when you least expect it, they get announced as a brand new feature a couple years later. This can be seen all over the history of FIFA, but there's a visible increase in its frequency at this point in history. As a result of this, many players became disenchanted with the new release of FIFA every year, instead choosing to stay a year or 2 behind because the game would be cheaper and there'd be more or less the same features as the next year. I have loads of friends who do this, and I don't know whether I should laugh at them or envy them. This would continue on to next year with the release of FIFA 17. Surrounded by the modern era of FIFA, this game is seen as the final farewell from old FIFA for many players, as some of FIFA's biggest creators had moved on, and so had a lot of its player base. The audience that EA aims to satisfy with FIFA games is completely unique to other genres. For example, take a game like Celeste, very replayable, has a large audience of dedicated players, but nothing particularly massive. In fact, there's a high likelihood that you watching this right now may not even know about this game. Their audience isn't as big as FIFA's, but it's extremely dedicated. EA's FIFA series, on the other hand, is a lot less dedicated. That's That's not to say there aren't sweats, because God knows there are. I've played enough FUT champs. But it is to say that I know several people who used to play FIFA, and not as many that still do. Their audience is bigger, for sure, but more fluid. However, if you want to keep your audience engaged, what do? Well, in a gaming context, you give them tasks to complete. And with the release of FIFA 17, EA changed the game forever with the announcement of two major new features. Two features that many FIFA players regard as the last straw. The first of which were squad building challenges, which was extremely welcomed by the FIFA community. Finally, there was a use for all the dead wood in everyone's clubs, as they could now submit them for the chance, or in some cases the certainty, of getting someone far better. The first SBCs were very much welcomed, and the requirements weren't too crazy, like the 35 squads people needed for Ronaldinho last year. That was a joke, by the way. But the second edition, oh, the second edition. Tears, heartache. Literally 10 hours or more of gameplay to cram into a 3-day time span, and literally millions of broken controllers. Welcome to the beginning of the era of FUT Champions Weekend League. The beginning of EA actually promoting in-game rewards to their player base. For the first time, it was actually somewhat realistic for a player with no bank card to get the best team if they sacrifice themselves to the EA gods and play thousands of hours. God, this is bleak, isn't it? However much of a long shot it was now theoretically possible, and players actually kind of liked it. There were both weekly and monthly rewards, which gave more of an incentive to play every weekend. And for the first time in a while, EA were making more money than ever from microtransactions. With coin sponsors dead and their audience engaged with all the new content they were pushing out, EA had eclipsed their most difficult obstacle yet, and were ready to double, or should I say quadruple down on gameplay rewards. And now, upon the release of EAFC 24, there are 4 modes that all give rewards for being good at the game. However, at this point in time, there was only one. It all started with FUT champs. For the second time since the start of the video, I'm deviating from the main releases of FIFA, as FIFA Mobile released a couple of weeks after FIFA 17, and it went down really well with the wider FIFA community, with the introduction of Division Rivals. Generally, the game is more arcadey, but also more attainable and completely free, and as a result rivals the popularity of actual titled FIFA releases. However, due to its limits as a mobile game, I won't mention it much more, especially because of FIFA 18, the most sold FIFA game of all time, selling upwards of 24 million copies. Players were hyped about this game, and new additions such as icons for the very first time only served to cement that excitement. Furthermore, squad battles was added, the second of the 4 play to win game modes. Even though the rewards were terrible, I still tramped it out every week, and I regret it severely. This game also had my personal favorite pack animation, with the glow through the side of the pack telling you if it's an 83+ rated player. Also, remember the 2018 World Cup mode, which is some of the most fun I've ever had playing a FIFA game. With packs only, you could pull legends upon legends and use them all in game. It was incredibly entertaining. However nostalgic people feel for this era of FIFA game, however, there was a major level of criticism, as there always has been, directed towards EA for their lack of ambition, always doing just barely enough to appease their audience and saving new developments for the coming year. Speaking of which, with the release of FIFA 19 came a lot of scrutiny. EA had just released their most successful FIFA game ever, and they needed to follow it up, and they added a lot. New to the game was timed finishing, the active touch system, dynamic tactics, UEFA licensing for all of their competitions, and that's just the gameplay. However, despite EA's efforts, the audience was beginning to drift away as it sold less copies in the previous year. New to Ultimate Team was Division Rivals, replacing the old outdated Divisions model finally. It was one of the final emblems of the old way people played Ultimate Team, and now it was gone in favor of, granted, a better reward system. However, people criticized the fact that EA were leaning into a returning audience very strongly, and in turn neglecting both new and casual players. If you wanted to play the game casually now, you'd either have to sweat out Division Rivals, play FUT champs, or I don't know, play a friendly. It wasn't good for the casual player, but EA didn't seem to care. As we've already seen, if EA are getting paid, then that's all that matters, and God knows they were making a lot of money by now. The topic of the core game is a fascinating one in the gaming landscape, and I want to draw a parallel between Ultimate Team and Minecraft, which seems like a long shot, but stick with me. Minecraft has been around for a long time now, and even today the community stays strong. But why? The game is so different now compared to what it was. How can it be that the same people love it just as much? It's simple, and it's the same strategy that EA employ with Ultimate Team. They never actually change the core game mechanics, they just change what you can do with them. Minecraft may look different, but it's still a game about blocks and building and fighting off mobs. And Ultimate Team is still a game mode about trading and economy and building your way up to the top. That has never changed, and everyone is better off because of it. EA have added new game modes and new challenges, but the core game mechanics remain the same, as they have done for almost 2 decades at this point, because it's an effective game loop. All the other content is just noise around an effective set of game mechanics, and that's why it's persisted for so long. Obviously, this is going to continue to FIFA 20, which really focused on Volta being re-added, but in Ultimate Team, new icons like Zidane and Garrincha were added, as well as some of the party game modes like Mystery Ball and King of the Hill. But really, this is the first FIFA game in a couple of years to have no major impact on the game at large, showing signs that EA have come full circle. They've had the most popular spell ever, so why would they need to change anything everything about their game. Moving on quickly, the release of FIFA 21 was shrouded in controversy as EA faced its biggest competition yet. We saw how they dealt with the major coin websites, which, by the way, were completely legal to run, even if they were against terms of service. Oh no, EA aren't being challenged by them. They're being challenged by the law. The implications of gambling in Ultimate Team are clear. There's no denying that. So when Belgium moved to ban FIFA points in January 2019 after government pressure, EA obliged, leading to the first ever banning of FIFA points. EA knew their time was limited as the topic was now being discussed by other governments such as those in the US and the UK. So what did EA do? They denied them being gambling, of course. Not gambling. Oh no, we would never be that sinister. They're merely surprise mechanics. What does that even mean? Despite this, they were found not guilty of unlawful gambling, but I and many others see EA's exploitation of gambling mechanics in the game as unlawful, and soon they will certainly be illegal. And EA's move to more gameplay-based reward systems may have been a function of the gambling stigma around the game. Also, preview packs are not gambling, so EA's further distancing themselves from the idea of unlawful gambling again there. However, this is all merely speculation. But FIFA 22 came through with some heat, some fire, some all-time god-tier, S-class, beast mode features, like high promotion technology. I still have no idea what it does to this day. But hey, heroes are here. Do you want a cheap version of an icon who's either completely unusable or ridiculously OP? Then heroes are for you. Really though, I think it's great to give a nod to some of the players that aren't quite good enough for an icon card, but definitely culturally relevant and good enough for the tier below, like a Robbie Keane or a Joe Cole. Additionally, EA have been adding several new card types throughout the last few releases, like the common ball cards and the shapeshifters. More content for the audience to remain engaged with, and more content for the audience to spend money on. It's a win-win. But speaking of money, FIFA 23 came out with the World Cup mode added, and all the World Cup cards, which was actually really cool. But damn, I wish I had a standalone game like FIFA 18 and FIFA 14. High Promotion 2 is here, because everyone asked for it, and the option to delete your Ultimate Team was removed. You're stuck with your previous mistakes now. There are now foot moments, which again is a bit gimmicky, and I'll be honest, I rarely touch it, and I don't think many people play it nowadays. I get the sense that most people play Rivals and FUT Champs, and play a draft if they're given a draft token, but that tends to be the extent of it. If you play squad battles, then God help you, because I certainly can't. Crossplay was added though, so that's good, I guess. I mean, you need friends to care about crossplay, and so it didn't really bother me, but it felt like instead of a community celebration, it was more of a sigh of relief from the community, as other major releases had enabled crossplay years ago. EA, once again, slightly behind the curve, but not so far behind as to alienate their audience. If you actually think about what FC 24 looks like today, I've already gone over almost all of the features that are there now, because yet again, hardly anything has really changed. Even still, I can guarantee some strongly worded comments about how I've undersold it, and how FC 24 is the best FIFA ever, but I fundamentally disagree. Anyway, I understand you might be disappointed by this, and you have a right to be. This is how a lot of FIFA players feel when they finally come to terms with what they're paying for every year. Repackaged, redressed, then resold with a new color theme. That feeling of expectation then being let down that you feel right now is the same one me and many other FIFA players have experienced before when they buy the new game, run home to play it, only to realize it's exactly the same as last year's version. The majority of people who feel that don't tend to buy another FIFA game, and I'm one of them. I didn't play much of FIFA 20 or 21. I had the games, put 100 hours into each at most, but I was too busy playing NBA 2K games because EA had pushed me away because I wasn't sweaty enough to line their pockets. The only reason I really came back to the game was because I missed playing a football video game, and God knows I was never going to play PES. Ultimate Team as a game mode has held my hand throughout my childhood and adolescence, and is now with me in my adult years as a creator, and I'm grateful for its existence. And so I hope you can all see how far Ultimate Team has changed in the last 17 or so years, but I hope you can also see that just like EA, it's maybe not as different as we initially thought it was. Thank you for watching.